Hi guys! Today I'm going to be talking about the angles when it comes to astrology. So the angles are the cusps of all the angular houses in your birth chart. We have the first house, the fourth house, the seventh house, and the 10th house. In a chart that would begin at 0 degrees Aries, these cusps would each be ruled by a cardinal sign. We'd have Aries on the 1st, Cancer on the 4th, Libra on the 7th, and then Capricorn on the 10th. But of course, all of our charts are very different, so we all have different signs on each of these cusps. So yeah, these aren't traditional planetary placements, but these points or placements on your chart are very important. They can tell us a lot about ourselves and how we are presented to the world, how people view us, and all sorts of things that we kind of keep tucked away from view. So I'm going to dig into all that. So let's just go over these 4 different placements. So the first one is the first house cusp, and this is known as the Ascendant or the rising sign. Most people nowadays will tell you their big 3, right, which is their sun sign, their moon sign, and their ascendant or rising sign. So there is a lot of information out there about this placement in particular, which is great. So the ascendant is on an axis or a line connected, right, to the descendant. So they kind of have a little bit of a push and pull going on between the two of them. And the descendant is the 7th house cusp. Then we have the other line, which goes this way. We have the bottom, and that is the IC or the imum coeli, excuse my pronunciation. We'll call it the IC for the rest of this video. And up at the highest point in the sky, we have the midheaven, or sometimes known as the MC. You might see it as the MH. So again, first house is the ascendant, the 4th house cusp is the IC, the 7th house cusp is the descendant, and the 10th house cusp is the midheaven. So what do all these things really mean? Personally, I do feel like there is some debate about the different meanings of each of these angular house cusps. They are very important placements in your chart, and you should definitely look into them and learn about them and see what it means for you. But I do think that there are varying interpretations of each of these cusps. So this video is my personal interpretations, after years of speculation and reflection and obviously studying and research, but this is kind of like my personal take on each of the cusps, my personal take with a heavy background of traditional astrology, but I just wanted to make that clear. I do know that there are differing opinions on some of these, so I just wanted to put that out there. So let's briefly go through each of them. Right? So the first house cusp is your rising sign, and I've talked about this a lot in previous videos, but it's your first impression, it's what you put out to the world, it's how people initially view you, it's how you initially view new or uncomfortable situations. It's kind of your persona that comes out when, again, you're in a new or uncomfortable situation, you don't really know people very well, and then we have the descendant, and the reason I'm doing it this way is because these two are, they're attached together, a push and pull on an axis. So a descendant is more of qualities that you struggle to access, parts of yourself that you either push away purposely or subconsciously, or that you just don't have. We don't all have every quality under the sun, but it's just qualities. Maybe there are weaknesses or things that we struggle with, and it's things that we do tend to look for in other people. The 7th house cusp has a lot to do with partnerships, so a lot of times the descendant is looked at as things that you look for in other people, but it can also be qualities that you attract from others. And the 7th house is all about balance as well. So it could be qualities that balance you out, balance out that, rising sign, and they are opposites. So for instance, my rising is Sagittarius and my descendant is Gemini. So they play into each other a little bit. There's a little bit of like how you present yourself, things that maybe you wish you could present yourself like, or qualities you wish you had, or qualities that you strive to have. So the 7th house is a little bit more shadows over there, like things maybe you want but don't have, things that you don't want, things that you're self-conscious about, ways that you wish you could be, or it could be more simple than that and just things that you're, intrigued by, things that spark your curiosity. And when I say things, I mean like qualities and stuff like that, but in other people and things that you're drawn to. Or it could be an indicator of types of energies and personality traits. Sorry, that's my dog, or it could be an indicator of types of energies and personality traits that are drawn to you, that come into your life, especially in one-to-one or intimate relationships. But now let's move down to that 4th house cusp, the IC, which is on the axis, with the 10th house cusp, the midheaven, the highest point in the sky at the time of your birth. So the IC is things that are a bit more buried. It's our roots. It's our history. It's things that are not on the surface, the lowest point of the chart, right? So at the highest point in the sky when you were born, we have the midheaven. It is people's perceptions of us, the public's perception of us. It is, things that we aspire to be. So those are kind of a general idea of all the different angles, and I do want to dive a little bit deeper into this. So this is just an analogy that I came up with when I was thinking about this video. So imagine a house, right? And the front of your house, like the front windows, and especially that door, it's the way people see you. It's the way that people their initial impression of you, So at the front of the house is kind of like what you look like on the outside. Again, that initial impression. And in order to, get to more of your personality, they have to come through that door. So that's kind of the ascendant or the rising sign, right? So it's that part of your personality that people have to meet and greet and not deal with, but you know what I'm saying, before they get to know you. It's that kind of like, again, that door, that cover, so to speak. I wouldn't really call it like a mask. I don't think it's something used to hide yourself. I think it's just your initial upfront persona or the perception that you give off. And again, it's also how you kind of view yourself in newer situations. It's what you go to when you feel uncomfortable. It's kind of like your comfort. So now we move over to, let's go to the 4th house, right? So you come into the house, and then there's all these things in the house that, might be hidden from view. Maybe there's things down in the basement. Maybe there's things in the closet. And in order to really know a person, you have to come into that house and you have to spend some time there. You have to really dig around in order to find out who this person is. So again, these are not things that we're, consciously being like, oh, those are my hidden secrets. They can be, but a lot of it is who you are. Like, who are you deep down? What's going on below the surface? When somebody really gets to know you, that IC can come out. Also, of course, your other planetary placements can come out as well, but that's a lot of what the IC is. It's like the stuff that you kind of have to like really pry in order to uncover. So now we move to that 7th house cusp, right? And I was trying to think of how this fit into the whole house analogy. And I think the thing that makes the most sense is the 7th house cusp is the company that you bring into your house, right? It's the qualities that you're intrigued in. It's about the possessions and, the decor that you have out. But it's things that you are searching for and things that you consciously kind of bring into your life. Maybe because you don't know as much about it. Maybe because it's a weakness. But again, it's that company that you bring in. Like, what qualities are you kind of looking for? What qualities do you not have? It could also be the company that you kick out, because that 7th house, the home is there. It's stable. Like, the things that are in the basement, they're not going anywhere. But the company comes and goes. So sometimes, like with that 7th house energy, you want those qualities there, and other times you're like, no, I don't want to deal with that right now. So that's why I feel like the 7th house is kind of represented by, people coming in and out, company, possessions that can come and go, like decor items, stuff like that. And it's not that light. I'm not saying it's like a light placement. I'm just saying it's stuff that's more movable. Then we move up to the 10th house cusp, the midheaven. So this is more of if somebody was looking at a picture of your house, online, right? Or they're up in a helicopter or an airplane and they can see down from a bird's point of view, or they're a bird, right? They're a bird. But this is kind of the idea they have of you without really knowing you. That ascendant, you have to be up close and personal in order to get that ascendant energy. But with the midheaven, you can get that kind of perception from anywhere. You could see a picture, you could see it from a long distance. It's a little bit more of a distance, right? So the midheaven is how people perceive you. It's you're used to them. It's I use, right? That's how we see it on the meaning of the cusp. So how are you used by others? This could be negative or very positive. I'm not saying it's like you're always going to be used, but what's your use to others? From a distance, how does the public perceive you? What is it that you put out there? And again, this isn't the rising or the ascendant because it's again more from a distance. And this could also just be things that you're aspiring to, again, in the distance. So it could be like a lot of times the midheaven is associated with, well, what is your career going to be? And I feel like that's just not totally accurate. It makes sense, obviously. The 10th house has a lot to do with your career, and it does play into that. But more importantly, the midheaven is that perception of you, your reputation, like that precedes you. What do people think about you before they even really meet your rising sign? You know, it's kind of like before that. And it's something that people could think about you if they don't know you, like a lot of celebrities and stuff along those lines, or people you see on Instagram, or, you know somebody, a friend of a friend, distant family member, relative that you don't really have like any physical connection to. That's kind of where that midheaven comes into play. And again, it also is what you're aspiring to be. It's the highest point. So it's the highest point of yourself that you want to project. It's people's public perception, but it's also something you might aspire to as well. So that's kind of, a brief intro into the world of angles when it comes to astrology. I would love to go further into this maybe in a different video, but I thought that I just would talk about that and let me know, like, what are your big four? No, but what placements do you have on each of these cusps? Do they resonate with you? I often have a hard time resonating with my IC. Like, does anybody else feel that way? I resonate a lot with my rising. I can understand my descendant. The midheaven, I'm still trying to work out. I feel like the midheaven is something that you're constantly trying to figure out because, again, it's like always that point you're trying to get to, where you're reaching towards. But the IC, because mine is on the cusp is Aries, so my IC is Aries, I do feel like it's one of those things that I'm constantly trying to like decipher within myself. Sometimes it's much easier to look at others than to turn inwards and look at like what's going on in your own birth chart. So that is the angles. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in my next video. Like and subscribe. Have a good day or night.